Hey everyone. Welcome to Dangerous Werewolf. Are you brave enough to step into the perilous world of werewolves with me? We'll uncover the secrets, face the fears, and explore the thrilling and dangerous aspects of these mythical creatures. So hold on tight and let's start this wild adventure together. Chapter 17 Amber. I woke up with a massive headache. As I sat, I clutched my head and gritted my teeth in pain. I need an aspirin, I thought to myself as I got up to go to my bathroom. When I looked in the mirror, I jumped back a little out of shock. I looked horrible. My hair was all messed up and knotted. My skin looked pale. I had bags under my eyes, and my eyes were all red and puffy. I really did cry myself to sleep last night. I still couldn't believe yesterday's events. I couldn't believe it actually happened. Remember, we don't need. If he wants to be an ass, let him be ass, Jackie said reassuringly. Yeah, you right. We don't need him. We are strong. I'm not gonna let some boy bring me down. I'm stronger than that, I said, trying to sound confident. Exactly. And I'm always here for you. Thanks, Jackie. I smiled. I looked at my phone and saw that I was gonna be late if I didn't hurry up. Shit. I yelped and ran downstairs. Want some breakfast, sweetie? My mom asked. Can't, sorry. Gonna be late. Love you guys, I shouted, and I ran outside and got into my car. The entire drive to school, I was thinking of ways to avoid Alex. I mean, it's gonna be nearly impossible. He's in all of my classes except for one, and I have history first hour with him, and he sits next to me. Oh, this shall be fun. I walked inside the school and head to my locker. I saw Alex is at his locker, so I pulled my hood up and kept my face down. I didn't want to see him or talk to him. As I got my books out, I could see him steal a couple glances at me. He turned his head and opened his mouth, but by that time I see him do it. I slammed my locker shut and ran off to history. I remembered I sat next to Alex, so I walked up to our history teacher. Excuse me. Oh, hello, Amber. What can I do for you today? He asked, smiling at me. Can I please sit in the back? I don't really feel good. It wasn't really a lie. The pain in my head had lessened only a little and my body felt weak and achy. Mates weren't supposed to fight. It caused the mate bond to retaliate and give us some really big issues to deal with. Feeling like death. For example, he gave me a small smile. Of course. There's an empty desk behind Brandon. Thank you. I walked back and set everything out. And as I was getting my book open, Alex came walking in with Jack. Alex sat down, and I could feel tears prickling in my eyes. Stay strong, Amber, I chanted to myself over and over again. I looked down but looked back up. I missed him. I hated to admit it, but it was true. I truly missed him. And he looked so good in his gray V-neck and dark blue jeans. I couldn't help but check him out. I made eye contact with Jack, and he gave me a sad smile. I couldn't even smile back. I just shook my head and looked back down at my book. I heard a voice say in front of me. I looked up and saw Brandon staring at me. Awkward. You ate him high, I said, unsure of what to say. I have never really spoken to him before. How are you today, Amber? At the mention of my name, I saw Alex look around until Jack pointed behind him at me. I saw Alex turn and he frowned. I saw him say something to Jack, but Jack only shrugged. I turned my attention back to Brandon was waiting for an answer. Nothing. Just going over the notes for our test today. You not going over the notes for the test today? He winked. I let out a little chuckle. Typical. Okay, class. First, for announcements. I have graded your projects, and they were absolutely wonderful. The lowest grade was a C. Not bad for this project. Very proud of you guys. Next thing, I am giving you guys 10 minutes to study for this test. It's a little on the long side, so it might take some of you the entire period to finish it. You may when you are done. And that means no homework. The class erupted into cheers and our teacher laughed. Yes, yes, yes. I know you guys are happy about that. But I would advise you guys to study for this test, he said before he sat down at his desk. Study time was almost over and I needed to sharpen my pencil before he handed the test out. As I was sharpening my pencil, I could feel his eyes on me, but I didn't dare to turn around, knowing I would probably break down crying or something like that. I can't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I won't let it happen. It's just what he wants and I refuse to do it. I need to show him that I'm strong, and I don't need some jackass like him to make me happy. Okay, okay? Class, put everything away and get out your pencil. Good luck. He smiled and handed out the test. I grabbed the test from Brandon and I saw him wink at me again. What the hell? He's repulsive. Jackie growled in disgust. I silently agreed with her, making a disgusted face. I then cut her off and focused on my test. Holy shit, that was long, I thought as I turned it in. I looked at the clock and saw we had 2 more minutes of class left. Happy that I could leave early since I had finished, I quickly walked back to my desk and gathered my things. I made eye contact with Alex, but I just kept on walking. I got to the bathroom and leaned on the sink taking a deep breath. Heard you and Alex aren't on good terms. A voice sneered to the right of me. I turned and saw Barbie. What do you want, Sadie? I asked, annoyed. Just wanted to know if the rumors were true. She gave me an evil smile. I thought about it. Are we still dating or not? Probably not if he called me some beast. Yet they are true. We broke up. She clapped and smiled. I knew it. I told you he would crawl back to me. Knock yourself out. I smiled and picked my stuff up as the bell rung. She stopped me by placing a hand on my shoulder. You're just gonna give up that easily? She asked in disbelief. Yeah, I said like it wasn't a big deal. So you aren't going to fight me for him? Nope, nope, I said through clenched teeth. I would really like to bash your face in a wall for even telling me this, but he's not mine anymore. I can't really do anything about it, but I would really just like to tear your head off your body. Oh, okay then. Oh, good, Sadie said unsurely. Yep, he's a jackass anyway, I said before I left. Can I just kick her ass? Jackie asked with an agitated growl. Trust me, if I could, I would have done it by now, I said walking into my math class. And thankfully I don't sit next to Alex in this class. That would have been horrible. I took my seat and saw Alex walk in the door. I still refused to acknowledge him. It's not gonna happen. One word that described math. Hell, I could smell Alex's scent during the entire period. I would sneak glances up at him as he laughed with his friends. It's like he can't even feel anything. He's acting like his heart isn't broken into like mine is. Like he doesn't feel any sign of remorse for what he did to me. I admit it probably wasn't a good idea keeping this secret from him for so long, but I could never find the right time to tell him. He was the one that was harsh. He should be the one apologizing for this. It's all his fault. I growled a little too loud and slammed my book shut. I looked up and noticed everyone was staring at me, including Alex. I couldn't take this anymore. I gathered up my things and walked out of the room to my car. I needed a run to clear my head. Oh shit. Stuff is getting real. Keep the comments coming. And keep on voting. Love you all. Ost and Chapter 18 Amber. I ran out of the room and outside. I didn't care about putting my books away. I just took them with me. As I stepped out of the door, Brandon was right next to. Hey, he smiled down at me. Hi, I said, looking down with my hood up. He stopped me by gently grabbing my arm. Hey, are you okay? Just Alex being an asshole, I mumbled. He laughed and put an arm around me as we started walking again. Look at the bright side. I'm available, he teased. I busted out laughing. Amber, wait. I heard a voice yell from behind me. I stole a quick glance, and once I found out it was Alex, I looked back down, still walking to my car. I got to my car and saw Brandon push Alex away. I will admit, I was a little pissed. But then I remembered what he did to me, so I just left it alone. You had your chance, mate. But it's pretty obvious that she doesn't want you anymore. Brandon sneered. And how come he sounded so happy to say that to Alex? Alex walked over to me. Amber, wait. I just want to talk to you. It pained me to hear his voice so low and sad. I set my stuff in my car before turning around. I looked up at him and I could feel fresh tears brimming my eyes. I wanted to let them fall so badly, but I couldn't do that in front of him and give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I wasn't going to fall for his whole nice boy act, and I was never going to fall for it. You've already told me what you think. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe we weren't mates, I said, the last part coming out in a whisper. His face broke my heart. Right as I said that last sentence, his face contorted into sorrow and guilt. No, I was wrong. Just, please, talk to me, he begged. I shook my head and got into my car. With one last glance at him, I backed up and drove out of the parking lot. I couldn't do this. I drove to one of my favorite spots out in the forest behind the school. After I parked on the trail, I walked around a little bit to clear my head and talked to my wolf to see what she thinks about all of this. Do you believe him? I asked Jackie. I don't know. I want to, but I just can't. Same. I don't know what to do. I cried and sat up against a tree. I can feel Xavier, though. Her voice came softer. While Alex and Xavier may have been the same person, they were still different beings. Jackie was still going to be closer to Xavier. Is he okay? I asked worriedly. He's really quiet. And upset. She sighed. Probably. I sighed and looked around the forest, then down at my phone. I should probably head back to class. My parents would kill me if they found out I skipped the rest of the day. I walked into chemistry and sat down next to Lance since he was my partner. Lance is one of the guys that played football but quit. He actually wasn't that bad. I was getting extremely pissed off because the freaking troll couldn't keep her hands off of Alex. I saw him smiling and he looked up at me, so I quickly looked away and leaned into Lance. You are pretty cute. You know that. I giggled. I watched as he turned bright red, and I laughed looking back down at my book. I saw Alex frown out of the corner of my eye, and then he turned to Sadie and I watched her face light up. Oh hell no. Fine, asshole. And that's how most of the day went by. I skipped lunch and the rest of my classes. I left before lunch and headed out to my favorite spot that's pretty far from the pack. House. It's a small clearing, and there is a little stream of flowers and a small waterfall made out of the rocks. I sighed and fell down on my bed. I can't take this anymore. I cried out loud, holding my head. I'm done with this. All of it. I cried even harder as I admitted that. Princess. I jumped as I heard my dad's voice. It'll get better. I turned slightly and saw him sit down next to me. How do you know? I asked as I sat up and put my arms around my knees. I don't. But I do know that you are stronger than this. I felt tears running down my face as I rested my head on my arms. I don't know how much longer I can take this, Dad. He put his arm around me and I leaned into his shoulder. Sweetie, I know you are strong. And remember, no guy is worth crying over. I laughed slightly. You're only saying this because you don't want me dating any guy. That is so. True. But that's not the point. He laughed. Show Alex what he is missing. Show him how happy you are without him. But Dad, I'm not happy. I'm happy with him. He pulled me closer to his side. Listen, sweetie, no girl of mine is going to show some asshole that she is sad because of him. I don't care if he is your mate. You cannot show that stupid little ignorant asshole who is very annoying and not right in the head end. Dad, I laughed, cutting off his rant. Your point. He chuckled. Right? As I was saying, I don't want you to show how unhappy you are. You can't let him know how he affected you. You just need to keep your head up at all times and show him what he is missing. I mean, look at you, he shouted, smiling. You are gorgeous, sweet, a badass, and so young. You can't let him get to you. Be the better person and show him what you are made of. I looked up at my dad and saw a huge smile that was plastered on his face. You're right, I said to him. Well, duh. He replied like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I shoved him and he fell back laughing. I can't show Alex my pain. I need to stay strong and that I can do so much better. Exactly. Now how are you going to do that? He asked, laying back and looking up at the sky. I opened my mouth but nothing came out. Well, he asked, smirking. I don't know how exactly. He stood up and stretched. I'm sure you'll find something, he said, extending a hand to me. Thanks. I smiled, taking his hand. Let's head back to the house. We asked your mother to make us some food. I didn't really know if the talk would cheer you up. So let's get you something with chocolate. I heard that helps when girls are depressed. I laughed. Oh, my dad is something. Yes, chocolate helps. Also Teen Wolf marathons. I smiled sweetly as we began to walk back. Those men are not werewolves. They make us look so weird. My dad shuddered in disgust. True. I agreed. But those men, oh so sexy. Especially Styles. He's so funny. And he's really nice. The sexiness is just a bonus. I smirked at my dad's grossed out face. They are not sexy, he said, looking at me like I was crazy. I gasped at him. Have you seen them? Yes, I have. They aren't sexy. Whatever, I said, shaking my head. Now your mother. She is sexy, my dad said with a smirk. Dad, I screamed, covering my ears. Don't ever say that again. E.W. Gross. Chapter 19. Alex. I watched longingly as Amber left the classroom and headed out. I didn't know why, but I was at the point of just saying screw it all to myself and running after her. Oh, I wanted nothing more than to do that. Then do it. No one is stopping you, Xavier said to me. I nodded. God damn it. Have I ever told you that I hate it when you're right? A few times. Now go and get her. I nodded again and ran out of the classroom as soon as the bell rang. I looked down the hallways, but couldn't find Amber. Hey, Alex. Jack called it after me. You looking for someone? Duh, where is she? I nearly growled. He was stopping our search. Note the word hour in that. Xavier was going crazy. I saw her leave. Literally. She was heading out to her car. He said, Thanks, I said, darting out of the school. I scanned the parking lot and nearly dropped right then and there. Brandon had his arm around Amber, and they were walking to her car, talking, laughing even. You dumb piece of shit. Don't stand there. Move. Xavier howled at me. I ran after them. Amber, wait, I called. She barely glanced up at me, before putting her head back down, her hood still up. Crap. What? I asked. Jackie, her wolf. Oh boy. I just ran faster. I was nearly by her side when I felt an arm shove me out of the way. I snarled and whirled around to see Brandon, scowling at me. You had your chance, mate. But it's pretty obvious that she doesn't want you anymore, he said, and a little too cheerfully at that. I ignored him and turned back around to see Amber. Amber, wait. I just want to talk to you, I pleaded. She just turned to me. I could see fresh tears in her eyes, and I would have given anything at all just to hold her then and there. I felt my heart rip into as she just shook her head. If that wasn't bad enough, her next words almost dropped me. You've already told me what you think. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe we weren't mates. I ignored the confused and slightly angered expression on Brandon's face. No, I was wrong. Just, please, talk to me. She shook her head again and got into her car. I watched in helplessness as she drove out of the parking lot. I only hoped that she would come back. Hell. The school day wasn't even over yet. But as much as I hoped, I knew I wouldn't see her again today. No, Xavier whimpered sadly. I could feel him getting frustrated. He was in as much pain as I was. You need to let her go, Brandon said coldly. She isn't yours anymore, and she's made that clear. I growled. And what do you think? That she's yours? He sneered a little. Maybe. I know now that my chances are better than yours. That blew it. I was just as mad as Xavier was at this point, which, might I say, was downright furious. I had my hand on his throat before he could even blink, holding him up. Lay a finger on her and you'll lose all of yours. Xavier's voice rang out with my own. The threat wasn't enough for him, though. Without warning, our body moved and tossed him against the school's wall, his head knocking with a thud and his body going limp as he passed out on the lawn. That's going to bite me in the ass later. I stormed over to my Jeep and opened the door. Well. Actually, I tore the door off, and then it was stuck in my hands. I looked down to see that my fingers were growing claws, causing the metal to stick to them. I easily pried them off and threw it into the trunk. I'd fix it later, I thought. Just then, a hand was on my shoulder, but I whirled around, becoming even more angry. It wasn't normal for me to be so livid, but I couldn't control the seething anger that enveloped me. I wanted to hurt someone. Something. I wanted blood. Alex, Jack said, stepping back. You need to calm down, as much as your wolf wants it. You can't just go around taking people out. It won't bring Amber back. And what the hell am I supposed to do? I snarled. You saw it, didn't you? She just downright rejected me. No, she didn't. She didn't say the words. And her wolf was loud enough that even I heard. Like you, she just needs time. I tried to calm down, but Xavier wouldn't have any of it. Instead, he pushed through, taking control of my body. Jack must have seen this, for he stepped back again, bowing his head in submission. I am not trying to take your mate, just trying to help you get her back. Xavier didn't even seem to hear him, for he had Jack on the ground by the throat before I could react to anything. I need my mate. He spoke, slow, but deadly. I know, Jack replied calmly. And you'll get her, but I need Alex. I felt Xavier pull back slightly, but I still needed to help push him. It took a moment, but once I was in control again, I let Jack up. Don't aggravate him, I told him quietly, taking deep breaths to try to get everything to calm down. I was losing control on him far too easily. He's just beneath the surface. I can't push him down anymore. He nodded. Come on, let's get to class. We'll try to get her tomorrow. I followed with a nod and a sigh. Let's just hope we succeed then. Because I don't know how long I can hold him back. I understand. Alex, just try. He wants blood, I stated. Jack let out a snort. What sensible werewolf wouldn't? I was surprised when I saw Amber walk into the next class. We had chemistry together as well. Sadly, it was also with Brandon and Sadie. Now, Brandon wasn't in class, and it was probably because I had left him with a concussion. Jack sensed to call in the school nurse and give her some cover story, but it was Sadie that I had to worry about. Xavier had finally calmed down. Of all things, it was after Jack had given me one of Amber's old hoodies that she'd left in his car when he'd driven her over to school once. I would have assumed that knowledge would have pushed Xavier over yet again, but her scent calmed him to where he was just a constant. Low growl in back of my mind. Damn wolf. Amber was about to rose over from me. while Sadie sat right next to me. Even worse. We were lab partners. Amber had some guy that I think was named Lance. He was on the football team with me freshman year but had quit along with me and a few other guys when life just became a handful. What I couldn't stand was how Sadie couldn't seem to keep her hands off of me. I mean, what did I ever see in her? Every time she touched me, I couldn't help but shudder. I would rather have a diseased monkey touching me over Sadie. What was really bad was that she wouldn't stop preening over me like a bee over honey. Like she couldn't get it through her thick head that I would never go out with her again. Ever. But that didn't stop her from trying to touch me at every possible moment. The troll. I smiled to myself when I remembered when Amber had called her that. The expression on her face was priceless, and I couldn't help but feel even happier when I saw Amber's victorious face. She's still the same girl that you fell for last week. Jack's words rang in my head loud and clear. Amber must have caught me looking at her, for she quickly looked away. It made it even worse that Sadie was touching me again. I was about to retaliate when Amber leaned into a surprised-looking Lance. And she whispered something in his ear, causing him to turn betrayed. She was flirting with him. Lance shot me a hey. Don't look at me. I don't want anything to do with this. Look, I just nodded a little, understanding what he was trying to say. For once, Xavier wasn't mad at the man. No, he was mad that our mate would dare try such a thing on another male. Should have kept the sweatshirt with you, was his only comment. Yeah, like that would go over well. Well, to can play at that game, I muttered to myself. And as much as I wanted to puke, I started going along with Sadie's ever-persistent flirting. The way her face lit up when she thought she was getting through almost had me on the floor laughing. Oh, how I hated her right now. The rest of the day went like that. With every class, I just drifted off, almost dreaming of holding Amber in my arms again. God damn it. Wasn't this supposed to be a girl thing? In every book, movie, and show I've seen, the girl just wants the guy. I knew that Amber just wanted me. Well, here I was, wanting her more than ever, and I just can't get a break. I was her mate, and I couldn't reach out to her. Yes, I knew she was stubborn, but it was getting ridiculous. She didn't show up for lunch either, and Jack had to even warn me that I had started to break apart the table we were sitting at. My parents had told me that a werewolf's strength was impressive, that I was at the point where it was getting annoying. Just something else to chalk up my now-sucking life. Amber, how could I have been such a dumbass? The week went by fast, and I was sitting on my backyard porch, just looking off into the woods we had out back. Like that first day, Amber treated me much the same, and I was sorry to admit that I did too. It was just nerve-wracking at this point. You all right, son? I heard my dad ask. I shook my head. No, God. How could I have been such an idiot? He chuckled a little. You're my son. That's why. I looked up at him. What's that supposed to mean? Well, let's just say that you're not the first one in this family to do it. My dad said, sitting down next to me. And you definitely won't be the last. I waited for him to continue. I was a few years older than you when I met your mother. He began. I admit, I was a hunter. My parents, your grandparents, had been hunters as well. They had stopped when they realized that they just wanted to settle down, stop all the chaos of hunting. I was 18 when I left them. They had trained me for my whole life, knowing that I was hunter-born, and I might have had some abilities. I admit, I'd kill a few wolves, but to my credit and luck, they were only rogues. I met your mother when I was tracking them down. Her alpha had sent her and some other warriors to hunt the same rogues. Her group had split up to cover more ground and she found me. Let's just put it this way. When you've been told your whole life that werewolves are evil, it's not easy to have one particularly attractive wolf call you her mate. I said, wincing slightly. Don't need to know that. It's still you and Mom we're talking about here. He laughed but continued. Let's just say that after that, I did go down the same road that you did. Not quite rejection, but not quite an acceptance either. I guess your mom and I are partially to blame for this. We should have told you sooner, but we just didn't know how to, or when it would have been right. I snorted a little. It took a silver bullet and a trigger hunter to find out the truth. That's kind of a big shocker in my books. My dad nodded. It's understandable. He was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? Go for it, he said. I don't quite know what I'm feeling for Amber. I mean, Mom's part werewolf. Does it sound any familiar to you? He let out a deep sigh, then put his hand on his chin. He did it a lot when he was thinking. Let me ask you this. Do you love her? Do you love Amber? I nodded. Yeah, I guess I do. Then let me be the first to tell you that the same love you feel for her now will never fade. Have you ever thought once that your mother and I don't love each other? I shook my head. There you have it. Plus, you're more wolf than your mother, and you're mated to a full-blooded werewolf. If anything, the more you're with her, the more the feeling will intensify, the closer you'll become. Then, maybe soon even, you'll ask yourself why you ever thought that you didn't want to be with her. Why you ever treated her that way at all. I sat quietly, taking in his words. Did you treat Mom the same way that I treated Amber? I asked with a small wince. He shook his head, which made my heart drop. But his next words surprised me. No, he said. I treated her much worse. I've said it to her, and I'll say it to you, that not a day goes by that I don't regret it. You're lucky that you're still young, Alex. That you two can probably move on a lot easier than I ever did. I put my face in my hands. Ugh, I've wanted to tell her so much too, but she's just as stubborn as ever. She won't even look at me. He laughed a little. Then just be even more stubborn on trying to talk to her again. She needs to know how you feel, Alex. Both her and her wolf. Maybe then you two can move on. You think so? He looked me right in the eye when he spoke. I know so. Now how about we head inside? Your mother is making her famous lasagna tonight. I smiled, even laughed a little. That sounds good. I'll have to do that. Do what? My dad asked, raising an eyebrow. Everything, I admitted. He let out a small grunt. It seems I've taught you right. I laughed at that and walked inside. Tomorrow would be a different story. I just didn't know it yet. Chapter 20, Alex. I sat through the whole day, going over what I was going to say, and I went over every possible outcome, making sure I wouldn't screw up. You couldn't even if you wanted to. Xavier growled softly. I'd take over before you did. I rolled my eyes. Oh, thank you so much for your undying faith in me. I think he was about to respond with another remark when the bell rang. I shoved him out of my thoughts for the moment and ran to catch up to Amber. Amber, wait. She took one look in my direction before running off. I simply ran after her. I was vaguely aware of Brandon trying to stop me, but I simply shoved him out of the way. Either he was too stupid to learn the first time or I threw him to remember. Amber, talk to me, please. I pleaded, catching up with her. I said already. Alex, you already told. No, I didn't. I said calmly. She was about to say something when I noticed a group of men approach us. I could almost feel Amber tense up as they approached. Xavier snarled. What the hell is a rogue? Well, it's a will. What do we have here? One of them said. Looks like our job is easier. Boys. Another chuckled darkly. I narrowed my eyes, stepping in front of Amber. I didn't care what she thought of me. There was no way in hell I'd let them even touch her. What do you want? I asked. They all seemed to laugh, a couple of them shifting. I noticed that somehow there wasn't anyone around, despite class just getting out. Oh, just the two of you. Dead. Sorry. It's nothing personal. Just our alpha's orders. And with that, they lunged. I tried to get Amber out of the way, but it was too late. I growled loudly as one punched me hard, knocking me down onto the ground. It was as if time seemed to slow down as they got to Amber. I watched helplessly as she tried to fight them off, but she wasn't too effective. It looked like every time she tried to shift, one of them hit her back into her human self. It was when she let out a loud yelp, followed by the most painful whine I had ever heard, that I lost all control. I felt as if I took a fresh breath of air as something inside me snapped. I had tunnel vision as the world turned red around me. I had lost all cognitive control, and I didn't care. Xavier no longer seemed to be the entity that lived within me. No, he was the animal that I had wanted to suppress. Except now, I let go of the leash. Jumping up, I ran to the nearest rogue and jerked him away from his friends. I didn't bother giving him a second look as I heard his neck snap so easily. I felt nothing as I tore open another rogue's neck with my teeth, just then realizing that my hands were now paws, and I had a muzzle. I kept attacking one after another, leaving each one dead, snarls filing the air like a swarm of bees. When there was one left, I tore a chunk out of his shoulder and pinned him on his back, my teeth dangerously close to his neck. Tell your alpha that if he so much as touches my mate again, I will rip his sorry ass limb from limb. Do I make myself clear? I didn't speak through my mouth or as actual words. It was like I was cramming my thoughts into the rogue's head, whether he accepted it or not. The rogue nodded, whimpering wildly. I let him go, and watched in satisfaction as he ran off. I then turned to Amber. This was going to be interesting. Amber. I stared up in shock as I saw Alex shift into a black midnight wolf. A giant one, I might add. He also had a dark gray stomach. The tips of his ears and tail were also the same dark gray color. His back had a strange striped dusting pattern on the back that was a deep silver, making it look like a large tribal insignia. He was beautiful. I snapped out of it when I watched as the last rogue darted off. Alex. I asked, unsure if that was really him or not. He nodded and walked up to me. Are you all right? Yeah. Nothing broken. I joked nervously. Wait, I can hear you. My parents explained this whole mind-linking thing to me. I guess this was all it took. I looked at him like he went crazy. All it took. You were almost killed. I screamed at him, throwing my hands up in the air for emphasis. He growled. No, you were almost hurt. That calm angered me. So why do you care? I care because I love you. Damn it. Alex snapped back at me. I gasped and looked at him with wide eyes. Did he really just say that? If so, did he really mean it? When he saw I was quiet, he took a step back and sat down. Looking at me, that's what I've been wanting to tell you. We made it back to my place and we were currently standing in my backyard. No one said anything on the entire walk here. Alex finally broke the silence. I love you. He admitted, looking up at me with those giant wolf eyes. He wouldn't stop staring at me like how I was staring at him. I didn't really know what to say. What could I say? First, he calls me a monster and wants nothing to do with me. Now he's saying he loves me. I don't know what to believe right now. Why do you keep saying that? I asked quietly, not really wanting to talk right now. I watched him shrug. I don't know, no, I don't know. Maybe because it's true. He said sarcastically. No need to be sarcastic right now. I sat down next to him, but I still refused to look at him. Yes, I was being the world's biggest asshole to you. And no, I don't deserve you to forgive me. Got that right. I may have been scared and very surprised, but that wasn't an excuse. Before he could say any more, I cut him off. I could have forgiven you if you weren't all over that troll. I sat still, not looking at him. I wasn't all over her. I didn't even say that we broke up or anything. And it didn't help me any more than it did you to be all over Brandon or Lance. He yelled at me. I looked up at him and saw his full of anger and jealousy. Okay, so maybe he had a good point there. But still, I was hurting you, Alex cut me off. He growled, possessive lie, moving closer to me. You. Or mine. I was quiet. I didn't know what to say, and Alex took that as an advantage because he kept talking. You are my mate, and I will not accept you going for anyone other than us. God damn it, Amber. He shut his eyes for only a moment, and looked me directly in the eyes. His voice softened and his whole stance became more relaxed. I love you more than anything. It killed me not to be with you or to see that adorable smile of yours. And it was. I didn't let him finish his sentence. I stood up and wrapped my arms around his neck and buried my face into his fur. What seemed like forever. Alex finally spoke. Amber. I looked up at him with tears in my eyes. He looked sad and rubbed my cheek with his nose. Don't cry, Amber. I hate it when you cry. I smiled and shook my head. I'm fine. Just happy. We broke apart and I told him how to shift back. Well, that was awkward. Because when Alex shifted back, he was naked. I blushed and quickly looked away. What's wrong? Alex asked, confused. Well, you see. I said, pointing a finger down, but still refused to look at him. I heard him yelp. Well, this is awkward. I nodded and walked over to a tree where my dad keeps a spare pair of basketball shorts. I grabbed them and threw them towards Alex. Just put something on. I laughed. I heard some shuffling, but I still refused to turn around just in case he doesn't have on. I let out a squeal when I felt my spun around. You, my adorable mate, are mine now, and no ifs, ands, or buts are going to stop that. He said, possessive lie in my ear. I giggled and winked at him. What about my butt? Alex smirked down at me. Don't tempt me. Oh, really? And what if I have something to say about it? I heard a low, deep voice ask. I winced at the power that was radiating off of my dad. He looked beyond pissed. His arms were crossed. His legs were spaced out a little, and his eyes were cold as stone. Hey, Dad. I smiled nervously and gave a little wave as Alex set me down. Inside now. My dad said before he turned around and walked back inside. Shit. I mumbled. I looked back at Alex one last time and followed my dad into his office. Amber. My dad started as I sat down in the chair in front of his desk. Yes. I asked, scared of what he will say. Explain a couple things to me. Why is Alex wearing my shorts without a shirt? Why is he here? And why are you two all lovey-dovey again? Well, it's actually a funny story. I laughed nervously, suddenly really scared. My dad leaned back in his chair with his hands behind his head. Amusement was clear in his eyes. Please enlighten me. Well, I said, trying to sound calm about this. I took a deep sigh before filling him in on the events that took place less than an hour before. He what? My dad asked, confused and in disbelief. I nodded. I rope bit me, and that's when Alex shifted, and his wolf is huge. My dad smiled and leaned back again. Okay, continue. Then he keeps saying he loves me, and we came back here. And we talked some more about that, and I taught him how to shift back. So that's why he is only in shorts. And we worked things out. He realized how much of an asshole he was and how stupid he was being. And he apologized. And you believed him? My dad asked, watching me carefully. I nodded. I didn't want to at first, but I looked in his eyes and saw he was telling the complete and utter truth. There was no lie, no hesitation, anything. It was all the truth. I said, smiling down at my hands in my lap. I heard my dad sigh and looked up just in time to see him dragging both of his hands down his face. Fine. I titled my head in confusion. Fine. He nodded. I guess I can forgive him, but only he still has to prove his trust and love for you to me before I completely forgive him. I nodded in understanding. Oh, I completely agree with you there. He isn't out of the clear with me yet either. My dad stood up and walked over to me and pulled me into a hug. "That's my girl. Make him beg for it." "Duh," I laughed and we both walked outside. I opened the door to see Alex standing on the porch, his back to us. He turned back to look at us, his torso still bare. I ran up to him, wrapped my arms around his neck, and breathed in his scent. "Alex," my dad said sternly. "Yes." His voice was neutral and I could hear the hint of dominance that Xavier was giving off. He was making it clear that while Alex may have done some things, he stood firm that he had done nothing wrong, which was true. My dad smiled a bit. "I may not like what you've done to Amber, but she seems keen on keeping you around and giving you another chance, so I might as well do the same. Something tells me I can't stop you from seeing her either, so why stop it now?" Alex gave my dad a smile and a nod. "Thank you. It does mean a lot to me." My dad smiled before his face went hard again. "But if you ever hurt my baby girl again, I will hunt you down, tie your balls to the hitch of my Ford truck, and drag you all the way to Canada." I heard Alex gulp and nod. Jackie seemed to laugh at Xavier's reaction as well. "Dad, I wind. I just got him. Don't scare him off." Alex let out a chuckle before he turned serious again and turned back to my dad. "Okay, I can accept that. I promise you that I won't ever hurt her again. Besides, I think that my wolf would kill me before you got the chance. Got that right?" I mumbled to myself. My dad nodded and walked back into the house. Alex and I walked over to a bench that we had and sat down. He pulled me into his arms and nuzzled my neck. I heard a low, possessive growl come up from his throat and he kissed my neck. I felt him smirk when I shivered. "You still aren't off the hook yet," I teased. I heard him sigh, but he let out a small chuckle. "Oh, I know. You are going to have to work hard for my forgiveness." I heard him let out a fake dramatic gasp. "I thought you already forgave me." He smiled and kissed my cheek. "Oh, not even close." I laughed. "Here you are, my little faithful shifters. Keep the comments coming. We love reading them. Love you all." Asked on Chapter 21. Alex. "So exactly how am I going to make it up to you?" I asked her. She made a humming noise, seeming to think about it. First, you have to do everything I say. Planned on that already," I said with a sigh. "Second, you cannot complain about anything I do when I go into heat. I hate to say it, but it's next week." "And heat?" I asked, looking at her, confused. "Oh, huh. Yeah. I raised an eyebrow. Heat is when a female wolf hits a cycle where she gets very aroused. I so wish I had a camera." Her face was priceless. "Go on," I said with a smirk. She turned even more red. "And it will affect you because..." Okay. I just interrupted, trying my best not to laugh. "Why will it affect me? And how?" Then a female voice interrupted us. "Amber," I started to panic. I didn't want to tell Alex about the heat that I'll go through. Oh gosh, it is so awkward. Because her body will release scents of her hormones, making you and your wolf go wild, while she'll be extremely horny 24/7 until it's over. I heard a voice from the doorway. "Thank you for saving me." That was until I looked up to see who it was. "Sierra, I'm going to kill you," I shouted, throwing a pillow at her. Gosh, this is so embarrassing. "Hey," Sierra smiled, catching the pillow. He asked, and we both know that you're too shy to respond, especially to this hottie. She said, practically I raping him. Alex looked shocked. "Hottie? Seriously?" But he seemed to have troubles coming to terms with what he said. He was very attractive, to begin with. I caught him brushing off compliments more than once, so I had assumed he didn't think very highly of his appearance. Then he went full-blown wolf and certain things here and there seemed to disappear or appear. One of his bottom teeth were crooked like they took off the braces too soon and now it was straight. He now had a dimple that showed every time he laughed. and even his shoulders seemed broader and more muscular. The only thing that didn't seem to change was how his choppy hair never stayed in place, and that made me smile on the inside. I liked his hair. She shrugged and looked back at me. Personally, I was busy trying to blow her up with my mind. Unfortunately, it didn't look like that was going to happen. Okay, so your mom is heading out, and I was thinking we could do a movie night. It would be fun with the new maid over here. She grinned. I don't like that grin very much. I'm right here, you know. Alex commented dryly, his eyebrow raised. She just rolled her eyes at him. Yes, I do know that. And I'm trying not to look your way considering how drool-worthy you are. And, trust me, if I was drooling over you, Amber would probably kill me. Got that right. I muttered under my breath so no one could hear me. Don't you have a mate to be looking for? I asked through gritted teeth out loud this time. Sierra shrugged again. I guess. I'll meet you two lovebirds downstairs. With that, she winked and left. Finally, I let out a sigh of relief. A friend of yours? Alex asked. I nodded. I guess you could say that. Come on. I want to see what she's up to. I grabbed his hand and started to drag him out of the room. So and when is that going to happen? I blushed and didn't say anything. God, kill me now. He laughed when he didn't get a reply and followed me downstairs into the living room. About time you guys got here. Sierra smiled, jumping up from the couch and running over to the TV where all the movies are. Well, Amber being a girl, she took forever. Alex exaggerated. I gasped at him. Whatever. You can sleep on the couch tonight. He looked offended. I was only kidding. I smirked. Sue wo ray you were. I saw Sierra's scowl, but she quickly covered it up. What movies do you want to watch? I walked over to where she was and she stood up so I could look through them. I paused and I picked a few out. Doesn't matter to me. I'll go get us drinks and popcorn. Alex smiled. I'll help. Sierra said way too quickly. I looked over at Alex and raised my eyebrows at him. He only shrugged and went into the kitchen with Sierra on his tail. I growled and continued to look through the movies. I'll help. I mocked in a high-pitched voice. Alex and Sierra finally got everything and put it on the coffee table. Okay. So I picked out The Heat, 21 amp over, Insidious, and Grown Ups too. Which one would you like to watch first? I asked, looking at them. I like Insidious. Alex smiled teasingly at me. Oh, that little jerk knows I don't really like scary movies. Same here, Sierra said, smiling at him. I bit my tongue from saying anything and turned around to put the movie in. First Sadie, now her, Jackie yelled. I know. I grumbled. Oh, you can sit on the couch with me, Alex, Sierra said. I turned around just in time to see Sierra pull Alex on the couch next to her. I went to go sit in between them, but Sierra moved her body so I couldn't fit. Sorry. There isn't enough room for you to sit. Sierra apologized. She better move her fat ass before Jackie started. But I snapped out of it when I heard Alex talk. That's okay. I can move so we can sit on the other couch, Amber, Alex said, smiling at me. I smiled back. Okay? But don't you want to sit on this couch? Sierra asked him in a rush. Then she can just sit on my lap, he quipped to her. I let out a yelp in surprise when Alex grabbed my waist and set me down on his lap. He wrapped his arms tightly around me so I couldn't move. Fine by me. I smiled and snuggled deeper into his arms. I felt him purr, which was really funny by the way, and he kissed the top of my head. Sierra huffed and pressed play. About 15 minutes into the movie, Sierra decided it would be a good idea to try and sneak over to Alex and snuggle into his arms. Alex was looking out of the corner of his eye and looked really uncomfortable. I got this, I told him through our mind link. He looked at me and smiled. I let out a fake yawn and stretched my arms. My hand stretched and I pushed her face away. I may or may not have pushed her far, because she landed on the ground. Ouch, she said, rubbing her butt when it connected with the wood flooring. Sorry. My arms were getting really cramped up and I needed to stretch them, I said, smiling. Of course they were, she said, giving me a fake smile. She got off the floor and sat back on the couch. Mimi, Alex teased. She deserved it, was my only reply. He chuckled and pulled me closer to him. But did Sierra stop there? Nope. Of course not. Because about halfway through the movie, Sierra and I jumped when the demon was going crazy, and Sierra jumped right into Alex's side. I growled, "Back off. I'll pass." She smirked at me. That's it. I entangled my right leg from Alex's and kicked her off of him and onto the floor again. After that, I moved so I was sitting in her spot and curled up against Alex. What the hell? Sierra asked, sitting up from the floor. Your presence. It bugged me, I said with a neutral look, acting like I was just talking about a candy flavor I didn't like. Alex just stared at me and busted out laughing. That was great, he said, then leaned down to whisper in my ear. Is my little mate jealous? He teased. I shivered from his breath hitting my neck. I narrowed my eyes at him and he held his hands up in surrender. Sierra growled and stood up to sit back on the couch again. I stretched my legs out so there wasn't any room left. Sorry, there isn't any room. You can go sit in the recliner or on the other couch. But I was sitting there. She pointed to the spot where my legs are. Not anymore, Alex said, smiling down at me. She huffed and shut the TV off and walked to the front door. Sierra, I called out. She turned around and looked at me. I gave her my sweetest smile. Stay away from Alex and go find your own mate. A loud growl was her response as she ripped open the door and slammed it shut. This is why I love you, Alex said with a smile and kissed my cheek. I like you too, I said and poked his nose. He frowned. You're still doing that? I nodded. Yep, Purse. You still haven't been fully forgiven. You have to work hard for it, Mr. Soon, to be alpha. How hard? He is twirly like he was scared to hear the answer to his question. I thought about it. I hummed, tapping my chin. Until I think you have worked hard enough for it. And will that be? He asked, still kind and nervous. Until I say so. I smiled wickedly. What do I have to do? You have to do what I say, when I say it, without talking back. That's it, he asked, smiling. I laughed at him. Oh no. Seriously. He groaned, shifting back against the couch. Oh yes, you have to do what I say without talking back, and you have to prove to me that you actually do love me. How do I have to prove it to you? He asked, really confused. I shrugged. That's for me to not find out, and for you to know. So I have to come up with something. I nodded. Yup, sounds fair enough. Oh, and by the way, you look really hot when you are jealous, he teased. I felt my face turn a couple shades of red. I don't know what you were talking about, I said, looking away from him so he couldn't see my face. Yes, you do. And I plan to keep teasing you about that. Just great, I muttered. Thank you all so much for joining me on this dangerous werewolf journey. I hope you had your hearts pumping and your minds racing. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and come back for more exciting and dangerous tales. Until next time, stay safe and keep that adventurous spirit alive.